Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallaita ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima. Innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama barakta ala Ibrahima وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا زدنا علما يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلبي على دينك آمين. Surah Al-Baqarah, and today we will do the 17th part of the surah, in which we will complete from verse number 224 till 237. Yes, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهَ عُرْضَةً لِأَيْمَانِكُمْ أَن تَبَرُّوا وَتَتَّقُوا وَتُصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And do not make Allah an obstacle for your oaths to do good, attain on to piety and foster good relations between people. Allah is all hearing, all knowing. It is reported in Asbabul Nuzul, page 72, that this verse was revealed with regard to Hazrat Abdullah bin Rawah Rahmullah Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, when he took an oath not to visit, speak, nor mend ties between his sister and brother in law. When a dispute arose between the couple, in Darul Mansur, volume 1, page 268, Hazrat Ibn Abbas Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu narrates that this verse was revealed concerning some people who used to take oaths not to carry out certain righteous deeds. When an oath is taken, it should be to do a good action. It is not permissible to take an oath to do any sinful act, nor to refrain from any good act. Many people take sinful oaths, such as swearing not to visit a certain relative or not to accept a particular moment's invitation or not to perform salah in congregation. This verse informs such people not to make Allah's name as obstacle for doing good actions, because they take such oaths they will not carry out certain good deeds, saying that they had so not to do so. Oaths are not meant to avert good deeds. Therefore, any person making such sinful oaths should break them and pay the due kafara expiation. Hazrat Auf bin Malik Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu says that he once asked Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I have a cousin who once refused to help me in my need and did not wish to maintain our ties of kinship. Later, he came to me questioning some assistance, but I had already taken an oath not to help him, nor to promote ties of kinship between us. What do you advise me to do? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him to assist the cousin and pay the kufara due of breaking his oath. Narrated by Mishkatul Masabi, page 297. Allah says in Surah Nur, the pious and wealthy amongst you should not take oaths to refuse relatives, needy, and immigrants in Allah's path, but should forgive and overlook. Do you not desire that Allah forgives you? And Allah is the all-hearing, all-knowing. Verse 22. This verse was revealed when Hazrat Abu Bakr Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu, on account of some misdemeanor, took an oath not to spend on his nephew whom he had being assisting previously. Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Sumra Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu narrates that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, when any of you take an oath, then realize that doing the opposite is better, he should break the oath and pay the kafara. Narrated by Mishkat, page 296 from Bukhari and Muslim. Now, verse number 225. لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما كسبت قلوبكم والله غفور حليم. Allah will not take you to task for your futile oaths, but will try you for that which you hearts intend. Allah is most forgiving, most clement. Oaths are of three types. The first type, called ghamus, occurs when a person take a false oath regarding an action of the past, that is, he swears that he had done a certain action whereas he did not, or vice versa. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in a narration of Bukhari, major sins are shirk, disobedience to parents, murder, and the Ghamus oath, narrated by Mishkatul Masabi, page 17. The word Ghamus is derived from the root word Ghams, which means the complete merging of one thing into another. Certain scholars explain that this particular term is used because such a false oath will cause a person to be submerged in Jahannam. The second type of oath called munakida, in which a person takes an oath concerning some future action. For example, he swears that he will do certain action or will not do some action. By breaking such an oath, kafara will be wajib, as is mentioned in Surah Maida. The detail regarding the kafara will inshallah be mentioned there. The third type is when a person takes an oath concerning a past action, being convinced of its truth, whereas it was occurred. This is called love, futile oath. The above verse makes reference to this type of oath regarding which a person will not be answerable. According to Hazrat Aisha Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anha, the futile oath is that which is used in common dialogue, that is Wallah, words which are not intended as oath but resembles them. Narrated by Bukhari, volume 2, page 986. The verse conclude with the statement that Allah is most forgiving and clement, since He will not require a person to render any account for these unintentional utterances. Now, verse number 226. لِلَّذِينَ يُؤْلُونَ مِن نِّسَائِهِمْ تَرَبَّصُوا أَرْبَعَةِ أَشْهُرٍ فَإِنْ فَاءُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Those who swear not to go near their wives should wait 4 months. Then, if they retract, then really Allah is most forgiving, most merciful. 227. وَإِنْ أَذَّمُوا الطَّلَاقَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. If they resolve to divorce, then really Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. There are several laws in Sharia with regard to a person who takes an oath not to cohabit with his wife. If he does not stipulate a time for this oath, it will be termed ila, meaning that if he does not cohabit with her within 4 months, then a bind divorce will take place. This means that he will not be able to take her back in marriage without her consent and without contracting a new marriage ceremony. The same law will apply if he swears not to have intercourse with her for a period of 4 months or more. Even if he swears not to do so for the rest of his life, in the above circumstances, if he does cohabit with his wife, the oath will be broken and she will not be divorced from him. However, the wajib kafara will have to be paid, which is mentioned in Surah Maida. If he takes an oath not to cohabit with her for a period less than 4 months, the law will be different. Should he cohabit within the stipulated period, kafara will have to be paid and she will not be divorced. However, if he fulfilled his oath, there will neither be any kafara due from him nor will his wife be divorced from him. So the three lessons came from this. The first one is the ila will expire when the person cohabits with his wife, which entails a practical retraction of the oath. However, if this is not possible due to either party being ill or the wife being a minor, he may verbally retract his oath within the stipulated period. However, if cohabitation becomes possible within this period, the verbal retraction will no longer be valid. It will now be imperative that he cohabits with her, failing which she would be divorced from him. Second lesson. If a person swore never to cohabit with his wife and then divorce her, the oath will still apply. This means that if he marries her again, he will not be able to cohabit with her until he breaks this oath and pays the kafara. Third lesson. The 4 months stipulated in the above laws will be calculated with the lunar calendar only. Hazrat Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu reports in a narration of Asbabul Nazul, page 72, that Ila took place for periods of a year and more during the period of ignorance. Allah restricted this period to 4 months. Therefore, any period less than 4 months will not be termed Ila. And if the oath is not broken within 4 months, the divorce will be pronounced. Hazrat Said bin Musab Rahmullah says that people during the time of ignorance would exasperate their wives by using the system of Ila. A person who neither desired to keep his wife nor wanted anyone else to marry her would take an oath to never cohabit with her. In this way, she had to spend her life without being married or unmarried. Allah then restricted this period of Ila by revealing the more verse Malumat Tanzil, volume 1, page 202. Now, verse number 228. والمطلقات يتربصن أنفسهن ثلاثة قروء ولا يحل لهن أن يكتمن ما خلق الله في أرحامهن إن كن يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وبؤولتهن أحق بردهن في ذلك إن أرادوا إصلاحا ولهن مثل الذي عليهن بالمعروف وللرجال عليهن درجات والله عزيز حكيم. Divorced women should wait for 3 menstrual courses. It is not lawful for them to conceal that which Allah has created in their wombs if indeed they believe in Allah and the last day. Their husbands are most deserving to take them back within this period. If they desire reconciliation, and the woman have rights similar to those that men have over them in kindness, and men are a degree about them. Allah is mighty, the wise. Allah ordained the institution of nikah, marriage, because men and women are mutually dependent on each other, deriving solace from each other. They live intimately with each other, making a life together. Whenever any unpleasant incident occurs, they overlook it and continue with their lives. However, occasions do arise which are irreconcilable, and it may also occur that the two simply cannot live together. In this situation, Allah has allowed the option of divorce, talaq, and khula. Many religions, though permitting marriage, do not recognize divorce. They scoff and jeer at Islam, but after being forced into certain situations, they have themselves included it into their religions. Since they have themselves included it in their faiths, they perpetrate many excesses and deficiencies in the matter. Although Islam encourages and promotes mutual love and affection between the couple, it does not force them to strain such a relationship by pretension with the two cannot be reconciled. One of the many laws governing the divorce is the waiting period afterwards, during which time the divorced woman cannot marry another man. This is referred to as the iddat, which in literally means to count. This word is used since she will have to count the months or menstrual period to determine its expiry. These verses, as well as the opening few of Surah Talaq, discuss the various laws of divorce. If the divorced woman is expecting at the time of her divorce, her iddat will expire upon the birth of the child. As stated in verse 4 of Surah Talaq, the term of the expected woman is the delivery of her child. If she is not expecting, her iddat will expire after the month if she experiences no menstrual cycle due to young age, menopause, or some other cause. This is explained in the following verse of Surah Talaq. The waiting period is 3 months for those of your women who have no hope of menstruating or have never menstruated. Verse number 4. With regard to those women who are not expecting but do menstruate, They will have to wait till the completion of 3 menstrual cycles before terminating their iddat, irrespective of the time this takes. When a person divorces his wife during her non-menstrual period called tohur, it is forbidden to divorce a woman during her menstrual cycle. She will then wait for next menstrual cycle. After this has expired, she will then pass another 2 periods of purity, tohur, whenever the third menstrual cycle will be her last. This will signal the expiry of her iddat. The determination of this iddat will be the sole responsibility of the woman, since none other than determine whether she is expecting or not, nor when her menstrual cycle occur. For this reason, she has to be honest in the matter. A dishonest woman may claim that she is neither expecting nor capable of menstruating if she knows that these conditions will lengthen her iddat. Similarly, she may lie concerning the length of a menstrual cycle to shorten her iddat. Such behavior is forbidden as stated in the verse under discussion. It is not lawful for them to conceal that which Allah has created in their wombs if indeed they believe in Allah and the last day. A person who is conscious of his pending presence before Allah, who is aware of every action, will be imbued with the quality of honesty and trustworthiness, and therefore will never speak a lie. Their husbands are most deserving to take them back within this period if they desire reconciliation. The person who pronounces 2 clear divorces will reserve the right to take his wife back within the iddat without contracting another marriage. Such a divorce is termed rajai, but will become Bain should be not take her back within the iddat. In such a case, Bain, a new marriage will have to be contracted with her prior consent. The divorce pronounced in this way clearly before consummation of the marriage will not be rejai but bain. If a man chooses to take his wife back within the iddat, none should revive him nor attempt to dissuade him. On the other hand, all efforts should be made to reconcile the couple. It will be best if all parties involved are pleased with the reconciliation, even though the man reserves the sole right to take her back if he wishes. When doing so, his intention should also be amicable and with a sincere view to reconcile as Allah stated, if they desire reconciliation. Many men merely take their wives back to vent their rage and thereafter fail to fulfill their rights while at the same time not divorcing them. This is done to spite the woman and prolong her suffering. Others divorce their wives merely to place them into lengthy iddat, then take them back without any intention of making her life better. Such practices are not permissible and un-Islamic, and they women have rights similar to those that men have over them in kindness. This verse makes it evident that not only do women owe certain rights to men, but men also owe rights to women. It is in total contradiction of Islamic teachings if a man pays no heed to the needs of the right of his wife. The plight of women prior to the advent of Islam was indeed a pitiful one. Even after the passage of time, the status accorded to women by Islam is unparalleled. The idolaters of India used to burn alive the woman whose husband had died, while no religion ordered a share of inheritance for women. During the period of ignorance, a woman was regarded as a mere commodity who had to serve her husband. Possessing no wealth of her own, upon the death of her husband, she became the property of his heirs, who would marry her off to whomsoever they pleased. It often occurred that in this instance, men would marry their own stepmothers. Infant girls were buried alive or killed at birth. Astaghfirullah. Islam accorded to the woman her rightful status, while at the same time not placing her upon the same standing of a man. She now ceased being a mere object of utility. Enjoying a rank of her own, she became the queen of her home. She revered mother and beloved jewel of her husband. She was also the rightful heir to the estate of relatives, possessing complete authority to utilize her wealth lawfully as she pleases without her husband's interference. Together with her share of inheritance, she also reserves the right to stipulate her dowry, which will be her sole property. Islam has also emphasized the maintenance of family ties which no Muslim can overlook. These must be fostered with a person's mother, sister, aunt, and all other relatives, irrespective of their gender. The husband has to treat his wife well, providing for all her needs and requirements, just as children must behave respectfully towards their mothers, according them their due honor is has thus elevated the status of women to an exclusive level. In the Western society, women have been robbed of their chastity and kept merely for the carnal gratification of men. Women are not only deprived of their inheritance and dowry, but marriage itself is scorned upon and considered a defeat. Couples live together for years without contracting a formal marriage, fulfilling all their desires within their relationship. Some do eventually marry, but their children are already illegitimate. The result of such a relationship is that the mother often ends up with the responsibility of bringing up the children, the natural consequence of which is her entry into the labor market. Consequently, she shed all her feminine innocence and purity to their shine the shoes of passing men, stand behind a shop counter, or adorn him herself in provocative attire to attract business to sell some commodity. It is indeed unfortunate that some of our so called Muslims are also enamored, uh, enamored by this feminist freedom. They prefer their women to doll up in promiscuous outfit and parade the malls and marketplaces. Even worse is the fact that these unenlightened ladies consider this debasing behavior to be a source of pride. It is regrettable that regrettable that today's woman fails to perceive that it is best for her to ascend to the position of a queen in her own home, demanding the request and honor of her family. In this way, she shall receive income from her husband, her inheritance, and still reserve the care and attention of her husband for herself. She will also be able to spend her wealth as she pleases. In the Western world, a woman is not considered to owe any rights to anyone. Therefore, she cannot expect anyone to fulfill her rights either. The so called rights they demand are not really rights at all, but are only to her determined. In these Western countries where adultery is rife, thousands of children are without any family, leading lives of utter solitude and loneliness. What is ironic is the fact that these people claim to grant rights to women while they feel not the slightest guilt to murder and plunder women and children in their wars and aggression against others. And men are decree about them. This verse outlined the fact that although men and women share mutual responsibilities and rights owing to each other, man possesses superiority over woman. This is further elucidating by the following verse in Surah Nisa. Men are the overseer of women by virtue of the fact that Allah accords superiority of some over others, and because man spends from his wealth. Verse 34. Allah has placed the responsibility of maintenance upon the man as well as accorded him the privilege of exercising authority over woman. For this reason, she has to obey him in domestic, religious, and social matters. Without this, the system of marriage cannot function. At the same time, man has not been vested the authority to oppress her, nor waive her rights to or destroy her wealth. The woman should understand that the husband is her leader, while the man should think that Allah has blessed him with the custody of a woman to aid him in his life. He must then make every effort to be cordial and polite to her, seeing to her every need. In this way, the lives of parents and children will be comfortable and good. Allah says in another verse, and live with them, woman, in a most amicable manner. This instruction includes all forms of polite behavior, keeping her rights and minds and needs in mind. Since man has been given the position of superiority, he should endure all the woman's failing. Otherwise, what is the purpose of this rank? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "A believing man should not harbor enmity for his wife due to some flaw in her. If he dislikes something in her, she may very well like some other quality of others." Narrated by Muslim, Volume 1, page 475. Hazrat Ibn Abbas ta'ala reports that Rasulullah sallallahu wasallam said, "The best of you is the one who is best unto his wife, and I am the best unto my wives." Narrated by Ibn Majah, page 142. Hazrat Aisha ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu wasallam said, "The people with the most perfect iman are those who possess the best morals and behave most compassionately towards their wife." Narrated by Mishkat, Volume 2, page 284. And Allah is mighty the wise. This verse serves to remind one that no person should think that he will not taken to task for transgressing Allah's law. None can escape his justice since he is the almighty and powerful. At the same time, all his injunctions are replete with wisdom and in conformity with man's need and ability. No other mode of living can supersede that which issues from him. Now, verse number 229. الطلاق مرتان فإمسك بمعروف أو تشريح بإحسان ولا يحل لكم أن تأخذوا مما آتيتموهن شيئا إلا أن يخافا ألا يقيم حدود الله فإن خفتم ألا يقيم حدود الله فلا جناح عليهما فيما افتدت به تلك حدود الله فلا تعتدوه وما يتعدى حدود الله فأولئك هم الظالمون. Divorce is pronounced twice, whereafter the woman is either retained in good faith or realized in kindness. It is not permissible for you to take anything from what you have given them except in the case when both fear that they will not be able to keep within the limits imposed by Allah. If you fear that they will not be able to keep within the limits of Allah, then there shall be no sin for either of them should the woman ransom herself. These are the limits imposed by Allah. So transgress them not, for those who transgress Allah's limits are indeed the oppressors. Now, verse number 230. فإن طلقها فلا تحل له من بعد حتى تنكح زوجا غيره فإن طلقها فلا جناح عليهما أن يتراجعا إن ظنا أن يقيما حدود الله يبينوها لقوم يعلمون. If he had divorced her the third time, then she is not lawful unto him thereafter until she weds another husband. Then if the other husband divorce her, there shall be no sin upon either of the couple that they return onto each other if they consider that they are able to observe the limits set by Allah. These are the limits of Allah which we manifest for those who have knowledge. The best way to divorce a woman, if the need to do so is pressing, is to pronounce one ambiguous divorce during a period of tohur. When a woman is not menstruating, in which no sexual contact was made, this will be considered a rajai divorce if the marriage was consummated, otherwise, it would be bind. This will, however, become bind once the iddat has expired. A bind divorce would mean that he will lose the right to take her back into his wedlock without her consent. That is, her consent, and a new marriage contract is imperative before remarriage. The same will apply if he pronounces another clear divorce before the expiry of this ibadah, of this iddat. If he issues a third divorce, it will now be termed mughalza, meaning that he cannot ever wed her again unless she is married to another person and consummates the marriage. Whereafter he dies or divorces her and she completes her iddat. If this subsequent marriage is not consummated, she shall still not be married to the previous husband, as is clearly stated in the hadith. It is makruh tahrimi, close to haram, for an agreement to be reached between a couple to marry, consummate the marriage, and then be divorced. Rasulullah sallallahu has cursed such people. Ibn Majah and Hakim, Volume 2, page 199. The most despised halal action is the sight of Allah is divorce. As reported in a hadith of Abu Dawud, volume 2, page 296, divorce has been um, dis- disallowed during the menstruation, since this is a period wherein a man is disinclined towards his wife. All of this is keeping with the temperament and welfare of the human. Rasulullah sallallahu once instructed Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar anhu to take back his wife after divorcing her during her menstrual cycle. She could only be divorced when she was pure or expecting. And narrated by Muslim, Volume 1, page 476. According to a narration of Bukhari, volume 2, page 803, the Prophet ﷺ instructed him to retract the divorce and pronounce another during the Tuhur. This, he added, should be before any intercourse takes place. One should only issue a divorce after such deliberation. Then, too, if it is deemed absolutely necessary, it must be done thoughtfully. During the tohur, wherein no sexual relationship transpired, if one truly ponders over all these injunctions, it will be realized that the welfare of man has been accommodated throughout. Should a person in contravention of Allah's law pronounce the three divorces either collectively or separately, he will have to suffer the pain of having his wife married to and used by another man before having her back. Although the right of divorce rests with the man, a woman has not been deprived of securing a divorce should the situation warrant it. This may be achieved through the agency of khula, whereby she offers to pay him a stipulated sum in exchange of a divorce. If he agrees, payment will be due from her and a bind divorce will come into effect. This does not mean that she is able to divorce herself from him, nor can she do so in a court without a reason that the Sharia regards as valid. In certain extreme circumstances, it is possible that a Muslim judge or ruler revokes a marriage upon the woman's plea. Details of this are to be found in the book of Fiqh. However, it should be borne in mind that no Muslim couple can be separated by a kafir, irrespective of the circumstances. If a couple, despite all efforts, cannot reconcile and they feel that by remaining together the laws of limits of Allah will be transgressed, they may opt for khula. If the man was at fault, he should issue the divorce without accepting any recompense. If, on the other hand, the wife was in the wrong, the husband may only accept a maximum of that amount which equals her dowry. If he demands more, the khula will be valid, but he will be guilty of a great sin for perpetrating an act which is makruh. The wife of Hazrat Thabit bin Qais radiallahu ta'ala anhu once told Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I have no columns with regard to Sabit character and piety, but I detest showing ingratitude as a Muslim. Therefore, I wish to be separated from him since I cannot live with him. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked, do you consent to returning the orchid which was given in dowry to you? She agreed, whereupon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed Hazrat Thabit radiallahu ta'ala anhu to accept the orchid and pronounce a divorce. Narrated by Bukhari, volume 2, page 794. Yes. This hadith clearly expounds the legality of khula and further elucidate the fact that it should be practiced only as a last option. By merely using the word khula with the husband's consequent acceptance, a divorce will be enforced, whereafter the woman should remain in iddat. Another type of divorce called talaq bin mal may also be implemented whereby the husband proposes to issue a divorce upon a specified sum. If the wife accepts, a bind divorce shall apply and she will have to pay the amount. In the above two verses, mention is first made of two rajai divorces, then khula. Next, Allah mentions another divorce which is irrevocable. When Allah says, if he had divorced her, then she is not lawful unto him thereafter until the weds another husband. Reference is made to the third divorce and not a fourth. The one mentioned is between was merely coincidental. Now, verse number 231. وَإِذَا طَلَقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ وَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ سِرِّهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ وَلَا تُمْسِكُوهُنَّ زِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ ولا تتخذوا آيات الله هزوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم وما أنزل عليكم من الكتاب والحكمة يعظكم به واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله بكل شيء عليم. When you divorce women and they reach their term iddat, then retain them in kindness or release them in kindness. Do not retain them to hurt them and transgress the limits set by Allah. For whoever does so has really oppressed his own soul. Make not the revelation of Allah a joke, and recall the bounty of Allah upon you and the scripture and wisdom which He has revealed to you, exhorting you thereby fear Allah and know that surely Allah is aware of everything. This verse emphasizes that a divorced woman should be allowed to continue with her life once the iddat was expired. If the husband does not wish to take her back, he should not hurt her by taking her back just before its expiry. Then issue a second divorce to confine her to another iddat. As Sabi of Ansar did such a thing, thereby extending the woman's iddat to 9 months. This verse was then revealed, saying, retain them in kindness or release them in kindness. Besides this instruction, Allah maintains further, do not retain them to hurt them and transgress the limits set by Allah, for whoever does so has really oppressed his own soul. Such a person has done a great injustice to himself because of hurting a believing woman. He has earned himself the due punishment and deprived himself of rewards. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that person is accursed who hurt a mu'min or assisted in the scheme to do so, narrated by Tirmizi. Make not the revolution of Allah a joke. It should not be that a person practices Allah's injunctions when he wishes, then disregards them at other times. Every order should be strictly adhered to at all times. Hazrat Mahmud bin Labid Raziallahu narrates that once Rasulullah sallallahu wasallam was informed about a person who pronounced three divorces at once. The Prophet sallallahu wasallam stood up in anger and said, "Do people play with the book of Allah while I am still in your midst?" Seeing the magnitude of his fury, a Sahabi inquired, "Should I not kill this person?" Narrated by Mishkatul Masabi, page 184. Pronouncing three collective divorces is prohibited in Islam. A person may only issue three of each is pronounced in a separate tuhub. It is reported in Muta that a person once asked Hazrat Ibn Abbas anhu what he had to say about the fact that he had given his wife 100 divorces. Hazrat Ibn Abbas anhu replied, "You divorced with her with three, but made a mockery of Allah's book with the other 97." Narrated by Mishkatul Masabi, page 284. And recall the bounty of Allah upon you and the scriptures and wisdom which He has revealed to you. Recalling Allah's bounty refers to showing gratitude for them and not utilizing them in sinful acts. All His orders must be implemented, for within them lie great wisdom and benefit. Exhorting you thereby, a person should take heed of whatever has been revealed and not ignoring anything. Fear Allah and know that surely Allah is aware of everything. He is aware of every action of man and will accord the rightful rewards or chastisement. He is fully conscious of where man's goodwill and prosperity lies. So every effort should be made to enact His commands, thereby averting destruction. Divorce will be valid even if pronounced in jest. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Three things are such that shall be deemed serious, whether they be earnest or in jest: marriage, divorce, and taking back of the divorcee." Narrated by Tirmizi, volume 1, page 191, and Hakim, volume 2, page 198. And another lesson from these are, make not the revelation of Allah a joke. Although this was physically revealed in connection with divorce, it broad context permits application to any situation where Allah's laws and verses are mocked at or jerked at. The gravity of the sin is just as great, whereas if such an act is deliberately perpetrated, it will continue kufr. Allah addresses the mu'mineen in Surah Ma'idah, "O you who believe, do not take as friends those who have received the book before you, and the disbelievers, who make a mockery and sport of your deen. Fear Allah if you are believers. When you call them to salah, they make a mockery and sport thereof. That is because they are a nation who do not understand." Verse number 58. In the discussion of those to dwell in Jahannam, Allah says in Surah Jasiyah, "This punishment is because you made a jest of Allah's revelation and the worldly life beguiled you." Verse 35. Despite their claims to Islam, many people jeer at the Quran, Hadith, and Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Islam totally absolves itself from such people. Many think that they are doing a service to Islam by carrying out outrageous actions such as filming the Hajj and its various rites. They portray the numerous scenes at the Kaaba, the Black Stone, Mina, etc., thinking that these are the invitations to Islam, while in reality they amount to no more than amusement and entertainment. Such sinful photography and cyn- cinematic coverage taint these actions of virtue. In such absurd dramas, the noble Sahaba Raziallahu anhum are portrayed without beards and with grown-up mustaches, which is a total mockery of these great personalities. Gathering of Qira are televised with the photographs of the readers spread all over newspaper pages. In the name of the Quran, photography is given precedence. All of this is screamed in universities and colleges as Islamic subject matter, where girls and boys weave them sitting side by side. During such Islamic session, the very injunction of Islam was violated. Banks supporting Islamic names are involved in interest transaction, while people use haram wealth for Hajj, Umrah, and for conveying rewards to the deceased. All this is tantamount to the making of Allah's revolution a joke and game. People do not even perceive these grave sins and continue mocking at those adhering to the Sunnah. The worst part of this is that these taunts stem from the very ones who claim to be Muslim. May Allah grant them all the proper understanding. Ameen. Now, verse number 232. وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَلَا تَعْزُلُوهُنَّ أَن يَنكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ إِذَا تَرَاضَوْا بَيْنَهُم بِالْمَعْرُوفِ ذَلِكَ يُوعَظُ بِهِ مَن كَانَ مِنكُمْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ ذَلِكُمْ أَزْكَىٰ لَكُمْ وَأَطْهَرُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. When you divorce your wives and they reach their terms, prevent them not from marrying their husbands if it is agreed between them in good faith. This is an admonition for him amongst you who believe in Allah and the last day. This is purer for you and cleaner. Allah knows and you know not. This instruction contains in this verse is directly specifically at the family and guardians of the divorced woman. Once she has completed her iddat, the divorce becomes binding, thereby allowing her to marry any person she desires, even if it may be her former husband. It may occur that a man divorces his wife at the spur of the moment when enraged, or on the other hand, she may ask for a divorce in a moment of fury. Later, when they reflect upon the situation, they realize that it was only a minor incident and that they will be able to live together again quite amicably. However, the father, brother, or other relatives of the woman consider her return to her husband an insult to them and try to prevent their reconciliation. At times, it has also occurred that they wish to extort money from him to remarry. Such behavior is strongly criticized in this verse. Hazrat Muakkil bin Yaris Rahimullah narrates that this verse was revealed with reference to him. He explained that he has married his sister to a person who later divorced her. After the expiry of her iddah, the same person came with a proposal to remarry her. Hazrat Muakkil Raziallahu Ta'ala anhu told him that he had married her to him upon the previous occasion, sent her to live with him, and she served him but only to be divorced. He then took an oath never to marry her to him, even though the man was suitable and the woman was prepared to return. On this occasion, the above verse was revealed. As the Makil then ran to the Prophet ﷺ and told him that he intended to comply to the instruction in the verse. Consequently, he married the couple and paid the kafara, expiation for the breach of an oath. Another narration adds that upon the revelation of this verse, Hazrat Maqil Raziallahu Ta'ala anhu said, I hear the instruction of my Rabb and I obey. Narrated by Darul Mansur, Volume 1, page 287 from Bukhari, Abu Dawud, Tirmizi, Hakim and others. Some commentators maintain that the verse also refers to the marriage of such woman to another man besides their previous husbands, should she wish to marry any such man, then to her relatives as well as the former husband should not pose as obstacle to the intended marriage. The verse contains the clause of in good faith, meaning that this intended marriage be in conformity with the Sharia. If it is contrary to this, it will be compulsory for another party to prevent its occurrence. The woman should ensure that the next husband is suitable in all respects so as not to invoke any objection from her family. This is an admonition for him amongst you who believe in Allah and the last day. This is purer for you and cleaner. Allah knows and you know not. Acting contrary to Allah's laws creates strife and distress which lead to the commission of sins and robbing Muslim men and women of their honor and chastity. People may think that they know what is good for them when in reality their sense of judgment is erroneous. The, they only they may only view the matter from an angel of piety and overlook human emotions, leading to many complications. Therefore, one should follow that which is ordained by Allah, who knows everything. Now, verse number 233. This is a long verse. Yes. والوالدات يرضعن أولادهن حولين كاملين لمن أراد أن يتم الرضاعة وعلى المولود له رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها لا تضار والدة من بولدها ولا مولود له بولده وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك فإن أراد فصالا عن تراض منهم أو وتشاور فلا جناح عليهما وإن أردتم أن تسترضعوا أولادكم فلا جناح عليكم إذا سلمتم ما آتيتم بالمعروف واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله بما تعملون بصير. Mothers shall suckle their children for 2 whole years, that is, for those who wish to complete the suckling. The duty of feeding and clothing the nursing mothers in a seemingly manner rests with the father of the child. None are charged beyond their capacity. A mother should not be made to suffer because of her child, nor should the one to whom the child is born he made to suffer. People of this child on the heir is incumbent the like thereof. If the couple decide to wean the child by mutual consent and consultation, there shall be no sin upon either of them. If you wish to give your children out to nurse, there is no sin on you provided you pay what is due from you according to the norm. Fear Allah and know that most definitely He sees what you do. When children are born to a couple lying amicably, each of them has strong loving emotions for the child, displaying every concern to attend to the upbringing and comfort of the child. The mother therefore tends to suckling without demanding remuneration. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, Rahmullah, it is not even proper for the mother to request payment if she is being provided for by the father. When a divorce takes place, the first question to arise is the custody of the child. The ruling in this case is that the mother retains custody of boys until they reach the age of 7 and girls until they turn 9. It should be borne in mind that she shall lose this right to custody if she marries a man who is not the mahram of the child. While the children are in her custody, it will still be obligatory for the biological father to provide for them. If the child is still being suckled when the divorce takes place, the mother cannot claim remuneration for breastfeeding during the iddat because the husband will be supporting her for this duration. Once the iddat expires, she may claim payment until he child is two. Up to this age, the one father will have to pay for the maintenance and expenses of the child as well. When the child turns two, the father will no longer be liable for the suckling but will still have to support the child. According to Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimullah, the maximum duration for breastfeeding is 2.5 years, while the other Imam restrict it to two. Therefore, if a woman suckles her child for more than 2 years but less than 2.5, she will not be entitled to remuneration for the extended period. However, such a child can still not marry those who were suckled by the same nursing mother during the period after 2 years. This is so because in the matter of marriage added caution is exercised. None are charged beyond their capacity. This verse advises suckling mothers not to demand as payment more than what their former husbands can afford. A mother should not be made to suffer because of her child, nor should the one to whom the child is born be made to suffer because of his child. Once the divorce has taken place, the couple should desist from causing undue suffering to each other. If the mother is for some reason incapable of suckling the child and wishes to be executed from the task, the father should not force her. Neither should be coerce her into suckling for free if she requires remuneration. If no way should he unduly exploit her maternal affection for ulterior motives. By the same token, if she is prepared to suckle the child, it will be wrong for him to give the child over to another woman out of spite. On the heir, the incumbent, and the like thereof. This verse implies that if the father dies, the responsibility of caring for the child will fall squarely on the heir's shoulder. If the child inherits some wealth, all the expenses of this child shall be paid from the inheritance. If, on the contrary, the child possesses no wealth of his own, the heirs will have to spend from their own wealth of defray expenses. Or, according to Imam Abu Hanifa Rahimullah, the heirs referred to are those of the child. Those who shall inherit from the child should be a child, should the child die, as well as the close mahram relatives of the child. If a single person fits into both these categories, he will have to support the child single-handedly. If there are many such heirs, they shall share the expenses in relation to their respective allotted shares of the estate. A mahram is that person to whom one may not be married if both people are of the same gender. The relationship of being mahram can be established by assuming either one to be of the opposite gender. If after this assumption it is concluded that the two cannot marry, they will be deemed to be mahram to each other. For example, an uncle cannot marry his niece, therefore he will also be regarded as a mahram to his nephew. Suppose a father dies, leaving nothing for his infant son to subsist upon, and the only heirs of the child are his mother and his paternal grandfather. According to their respective shares to this child's estate, the mother will have to contribute towards 1/3 of the child's expenses, while the remaining 2/3 will be borne by the grandfather. If the couple decide to wean the child before 2 years, by mutual consent and consultation, there shall be no sin upon either of them. This should be done with the welfare of the child as priority. This may be done if, for example, the mother's milk dries up or becomes infected and the child refuses to suckle by another woman. It may also occur that the child stops suckling on his own. It will be permissible to wean the child in all such circumstances where the welfare of the child may be adversely affected by suckling. If you wish to give your children out to nurse, there is no sin on you provided you pay what is due from you according to the norm, keeping the well being of the child in mind. If the couple decide to hire a wet nurse, there will no prohibition from the Sharia. However, if the mother wishes to suckle the child after her iddat as well, but at a fee, the father will have no right to take the child away from her to hand over to another wet nurse. He may only to do so if the mother demands to fee that is ex- exorbitant in comparison to the wetness or her. The mother's milk has become contaminated due to illness. Few rules are written here. 1. Even though another woman suckles the child, the mother serves the right to care for the child during the interim period. The father is obliged to make the necessary arrangement for this purpose. Second, the wage paid to the nursing mother should be a fair one and must be paid in full on the stipulated time without delay. This is implied in the verse, you pay what is due from you according to the norm. 3. If any other service is required from the wet nurse in addition to suckling, then it should be stipulated in the contract. 4. A wet nurse may be employed with the stipulation of food and clothing as wages, but this must be clearly defined. No other employees may be employed on this basis. Fear Allah and know that most definitely He sees what you do. It should always be borne in mind that no action goes unnoticed by Allah. Any contravention to His laws, be they concerning suckling or anything else, will deserve His wrath and punishment. Now, verse number 234. والذين يتوفون منكم ويذرون أزواجا يتربصن بأنفسهن أربعة أشهر وعشرة فإذا بلغن أجلهن فلا جناح عليكم فيما فعلن في أنفسهن بالمعروف والله بما تعملون خبير. Those of you who die leaving their wives behind, then the wives shall remain by themselves in iddat for 4 months and 10 days. When they reach their terms, there shall be no sin on you should they in decency do with themselves as they please. Allah is informed of what you do. This verse stipulates the iddat of a widow as 4 months and 10 days, wherein she may not wed another man nor adorn herself in any way. These laws have been extracted from the hadith. The iddat of the pregnant widow will expire upon delivery, even if it be merely an honor after the husband's death or many months thereafter. This has been stipulated in the following verse of Surah Talaq. The waiting period of the expecting mother is up to delivery. Verse number 4. Rule number 1. The widowed woman has to spend her iddat in the house wherein she lived with her husband, and if she is forced to earn, she may do so, but has to return immediately upon finishing her work. Second rule, if the man died on the first night of the Islamic month, the night on which the new moon was sighted, the iddat will be counted as 4 months and 10 days thereafter. However, if he died at any other time, the period of 130 days will be counted thereafter as the term for the iddat. Once her iddat has expired, she is at liberty to do as she pleases on condition that she conforms with the Sharia. In this way, if she wishes to remarry, none can stop her, but if she wants to perpetrate any impermissible action, she must be prevented. This is implied by the verse, when they reach their terms, there shall be no sin on you should they in decency do with themselves as they please. Allah is informed of what you do. If this woman or any man for that matter has to commit an act of disobedience, Allah must know about it and will give the necessary chastisement. 235 verse ولا جناح عليكم فيما أدرستم به من خطبة النساء أو أكننتم في أنفسكم علم الله أنكم تذكرونهن ولكن لا تواعدوهن سرا إلا أن تقولوا قولا معروفا ولا تعزموا عقدة النكاح حتى يبلغ الكتاب أجله واعلموا أن الله يعلم ما في أنفسهم فاحذروه واعلموا أن الله غفور حليم. There is no sin on you for marriage proposals should you proclaim them subtly or conceal them within your hearts. Allah knows well that you will remember these women, but do not secretly promise to marry them except by saying recognized words. Do not resolve to marry until the prescribed term has run its course. Know well that really Allah knows what is in your hearts, so fear Him. Know also that Allah is forgiving, most clement. A widow still passing her iddah may not be sent an explicit marriage proposal. If it is sent indirectly or by the use of ambiguous words, there will be no prohibition. That is, he tells her not to grieve, for Allah will provide her another husband. That is, etc. There will also be no sin to conceal one's intention to marry within the heart. Allah has given such concession, but He has forbidden the mixing of the two in secret as well as their marriage before the expiry of the iddat. Even after the expiry of the iddat, Allah again warns man to be aware of his ever presence and not to commit any sin. If a person erroneously sins, then too he should not be despondent, since Allah is also forgiving and most clement. Verse number 236. لا جناح عليكم إن طلقتم النساء ما لم تمسوهن أو تفرزوا لهن فريضة ومتئوهن على الموسع قدره وعلى المقتر قدره متاعا بالمعروف حقا على المحسنين. It is no sin on you if you divorce women while yet you have not touched them nor fixed a dowry for them. Provide for them muta, the rich according to his means and the poor according to his means, a fair provision which is abundant duty for those who do good. 237. وَإِن طَلَّقْتُمُوهُنَّ مِن قَبْلِ أَن تَمَسُّوهُنَّ وَقَدْ فَرَضْتُمْ لَهُنَّ فَرِيضَةً فَنِصْفُ مَا فَرَضْتُمْ إِلَّا أَن يَعْفُوا أَوْ يَعْفُوَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ عقدة النكاح وأن تعفوا أقرب للتقوى ولا تنسوا الفضل بينكم إن الله بما تعملون بصير. If you divorce them before touching them and you have stipulated the dowry, then half of it shall be due unless the woman or those possessing the tie of marriage forego it. To forego is nearer to piety, and forget not kindness amongst yourself. Verily Allah sees all that you do. The first law stated in this verse is that the person who does not consummate the marriage nor stipulates any dowry will owe the wife nothing when divorcing her. However, as a token of goodwill, she should give her what is termed as muta. This may take the form of a set of clothing consisting of 3 pieces, a scarf, an upper garment, and a third garment that covers the entire body from head to feet. The quality of these garments should be in accordance with the man's financial welfare, as implied by the verse, the rich according to his means and the poor according to his means. A fair provision which is a bounded duty for those who do good. Since every Muslim possesses the inherent quality to do good, this verse serves to inform us that this behavior is not compulsory on an open sinner. It is also learned from this verse that it is permissible to marry without priority stipulation of the dowry. If this took place and she was divorced and he died after consummation, she will receive the standard dowry received by other women of her family. If there was no consummation, um but the dowry was stipulated, she is entitled to half the agreed amount. Of course, it will be fine if she waives the entire amount or he gives the full sum, as stated, unless the woman or those possessing the tie of marriage forego it. To forego is sinner to piety. The one possessing the tie of marriage refers to the husband if the dowry was specified and the marriage consummated. The full sum will be due from the husband. In following one's right for the benefit of another lies immense rewards. And forget not kindness amongst yourself. People should continue dealing justly with each other and forget past differences. Verily, Allah knows all that you do. This very same reminder recurs on numerous occasions on that it is ever present in the mind. This will ensure that all actions are carried out properly and neither Allah's right nor those of man are neglected. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.